You can eat once a day and still train your body to protect belly fat. That sounds wrong. You're skipping meals, ignoring hunger, turning down snacks, and doing what most people won't even attempt. So when your stomach still looks the same, it feels personal. Maybe you've stood in front of the mirror thinking, how is this possible? You ate less often than everyone around you, maybe even less than you used to. You went through long stretches with nothing but water, coffee, and willpower. Yet the waistband still feels tight, the lower belly still hangs on, and the scale barely respects the effort. The counterintuitive idea is this: eating once is not the same as burning belly fat. A long fast can lower insulin, but it can also raise stress signals, lower movement, and set you up for one oversized meal. And when those signals collide, your body doesn't see a clean fat loss plan. It may see a day of pressure followed by a night of storage. Inside your body, the story is not just about calories disappearing from your plate. It's about cortisol, insulin, liver glucose, muscle demand, sleep quality, and whether your fat cells feel safe enough to open. Cortisol can tell the liver to release sugar even when you haven't eaten. Insulin can rise to manage that sugar, and suddenly your fat cells are locked while you're still technically fasting. That's why OMAD can feel so confusing. The outside story says, I only ate once, so fat should be melting. But the inside story may say, energy is scarce, stress is high, movement is low, and dinner is coming in like a flood. Your body isn't ignoring your effort. It may be responding to a signal you never meant to send. And this is where most people get trapped. They think the answer is to fast harder, drink more coffee, train harder, or make the one meal even later. But if the body already feels under pressure, more pressure doesn't always unlock fat. Sometimes, it just makes the emergency fuel tank around the belly look even more valuable. What you're about to understand is the hidden sequence behind stubborn belly fat on OMAD. Why discipline can feel high while fat loss stays low. Why movement drops without you noticing. Why stress hormones can protect the waistline. And why the reward meal can rebuild the storage signal. Then you'll see how muscle, sleep, walking, and a structured meal can finally make the system work together. Because the problem is not always the habit itself. It's the timing, the stress load, the movement pattern, and the message your body receives from the whole day. Once you see that, OMAD stops being a mystery and starts becoming a tool you can actually control. And the first piece of the puzzle begins with the strange way eating once can make you feel disciplined while your belly fat barely moves. You can go all day without eating and still feel like your belly fat didn't get the memo. You skip breakfast, push through lunch, ignore the snacks, and wait for that one meal like it's a finish line. On paper, it feels powerful, almost heroic, like you finally grabbed control of your body. But then the mirror gives you the same answer it gave you last week, and that's where the frustration starts. Most people believe that eating once a day automatically forces the body to burn fat. The logic sounds clean: fewer meals, fewer calories, lower insulin, more fat loss. So when the waistline doesn't change, they assume they're weak, broken, or somehow eating too much air. But biology isn't impressed by discipline alone. Here's the part most people completely miss. Eating once lowers meal frequency, but belly fat responds to hormones, stress, movement, sleep, and the meal itself. If the fast feels like pressure, cortisol can rise. If movement drops, daily burn shrinks. If the meal is too dense, insulin surges. So the body may spend the day defending energy, then spend the night storing what finally arrived. Think of belly fat like an emergency fuel tank, guarded by a very suspicious security system. OMAD may stop the food deliveries, but that doesn't automatically open the tank. If the alarm system is blaring, the guards don't relax. They tighten the locks and wait for danger to pass. And to your body, hunger plus stress plus exhaustion can look less like fat loss and more like survival trouble. Maybe you know this feeling already. You wake up determined, drink black coffee, power through a busy day, and tell yourself the hunger means it's working. But by afternoon, you're sitting more, moving less, feeling cold, irritated, and counting the minutes until dinner. Then one meal becomes less like nourishment and more like a rescue mission with a fork. The first shift is simple, but it changes everything. Stop asking only, did I eat once? Start asking, did my entire day tell my body it was safe to release stored fuel? For many healthy adults, that means gentle movement during the fast, a calm nervous system, enough minerals, and a meal built before hunger takes over. OMAD works better when it's a coordinated signal, not a daily test of how much discomfort you can tolerate. The deeper insight is that belly fat loss is not just subtraction. It's not only about removing meals, it's about changing access to stored energy. When insulin is low, fat cells can release fatty acid. But if cortisol keeps the liver making glucose, insulin may keep flickering back on. That means you can be fasting and still not fully living in the fat-burning environment you thought you created. So no, your body may not be betraying you. It may be obeying a survival pattern that OMAD accidentally triggered. The real question is whether your day is built to unlock belly fat or convince the body to protect it. And the first place this defense begins is not at dinner. It begins during the long hours when no food is coming in. This is where OMAD gets sneaky. You may be eating less often, but your body may also be spending less energy without asking your permission. The fast looks strict from the outside, but inside, your system may be quietly dimming the lights. And the strangest part is that you may not notice it until your belly fat refuses to move. The common belief is that a long fasting window automatically means a bigger fat-burning window. You think, I barely ate today, so my body must be pulling from my waist. But the body doesn't only calculate the meal, it watches the whole budget. If less energy comes in, it may start trimming energy going out. This happens through something most people never track: non-exercise movement. That means your steps, posture, fidgeting, chores, hand gestures, standing time, and the tiny movements that fill a normal day. When the body senses low incoming energy, it can reduce these little outputs to protect its fuel supply. You don't decide to move less. Your biology simply makes the couch look a little more convincing. Picture your metabolism like a house running on a limited battery during a storm. The system doesn't shut everything down at once. It just lowers the thermostat, dims the hallway, and turns off unused rooms. You still feel functional, but the daily burn has been quietly reduced in the background. OMAD may close the kitchen, but your body may respond by closing a few energy windows too. Maybe you skip breakfast and lunch, then tell yourself you're having an incredibly productive fat loss day. But you parked closer, skipped the stairs, sat through lunch instead of walking, and moved like your shoes were filled with wet sand. By evening, you ate once, but your body also burned less than it normally would have. That's not laziness. It's a survival machine trying to stretch the fuel it thinks is running low. The practical move is to track the day, not just the plate. During the fasting window, keep movement gentle, steady, and non-threatening. A 10-minute walk in the morning, standing breaks, light chores, or a relaxed walk after work. You don't need to punish your body. You need to remind it that energy is still allowed to flow. For many people, this keeps OMAD from turning into a low-output day with one very dramatic dinner. Here's the deeper insight. Fat loss is not just a calorie deficit you create with your mouth. It's also a signal created by your muscles. When muscles contract, they pull fuel from the bloodstream, improve glucose handling, and keep the body's engines awake. Movement tells the body, we're not in a famine. We're active, safe, and using fuel on purpose. So the fasting window can either become a clean runway for fat access or a quiet energy-saving mode. The difference may be your steps, your posture, but even if you keep moving, belly fat has another defense system waiting in the wings. And that system starts with the hormone that rises when fasting begins to feel like pressure. This is the part where OMAD can feel productive and still push the wrong button. You feel the hunger, the tension, the sharp edge of self-control, and it seems like fat loss must be happening. But intensity is not the same thing as fat burning. Sometimes, the harder the fast feels, the more your body starts acting like something is wrong. The mistake is believing that discomfort always means progress. So when you feel wired, cold, irritable, anxious, or exhausted, you may think, good, I'm really pushing through now. Then the answer becomes more fasting, more caffeine, more discipline, and maybe a harder workout on top of it. But the body doesn't hear that as commitment. It may hear it as a threat stacking on top of another threat. When food is absent, cortisol helps keep blood sugar stable. That's normal, useful, and not automatically bad. Cortisol tells the liver, your internal chemical factory, to release stored glucose so your brain and muscles have fuel. But if stress stays high, cortisol can keep calling for glucose, and that glucose can bring insulin back into the picture. Now imagine cortisol as a smoke alarm inside the body. A short beep is helpful. It warns the system and keeps you alive. But if the alarm screams all day, the whole building changes behavior. Doors close, workers panic, and the emergency fuel tank around the belly becomes something the body wants to protect. Picture someone doing OMAD during a brutal work week. They sleep 5 hours, drink coffee until their hands feel slightly electric, skip meals, then do intense training before dinner. By night, they haven't just fasted. They've built a full stress cocktail with a tiny umbrella of willpower on top. The scale may not move because the body is holding water, driving cravings, and guarding energy like winter is coming. The practical goal is to make the fast feel controlled, not desperate. For healthy adults, That might mean drinking water with minerals, keeping caffeine earlier and moderate, walking at an easy pace, and protecting sleep like it's part of the fat loss plan. A calm 20 to 40-minute walk can lower the stress load while still helping muscles use fuel. And anyone with diabetes, medication use, pregnancy, nursing, or a history of eating disorders should speak with a qualified professional before aggressive fasting. The deeper insight is that cortisol and insulin can overlap in a way that feels unfair. You may not eat, but stress can still tell the liver to make glucose from stored materials. If blood sugar rises from the inside, insulin may rise to manage it, and insulin is one of the signals that keeps fat cells from freely releasing fuel. So the fast can look empty on your plate, while your bloodstream is still receiving a storage message. That's why belly fat can feel protected during a long fast. It's not because the body is broken. It's because the alarm system is too loud for the fat cells to feel safe opening up. But the biggest twist happens after the fast, when you finally eat. Because one meal can either calm the system down or rebuild the exact insulin signal you spent all day trying to lower. This is where the whole OMAD plan can flip on you in one meal. You spend the day lowering insulin, waiting for fat cells to loosen their grip, and feeling like you earned something big. Then dinner arrives, and hunger walks into the room like it owns the place. Suddenly the meal stops being a metabolic reset and becomes payback for every hour you didn't eat. The common mistake is thinking, I only eat once, so this meal can't matter that much. But the one meal matters more, not less, because your body has been waiting all day for incoming fuel. After a long fast, your system is sensitive, absorbent, and ready to store or rebuild depending on what shows up. So if hunger designs the plate, biology may get a very different message than the one you intended. When fast carbs, liquid calories, desserts, sauces, fried foods, or ultra-dense, healthy foods hit all at once, blood sugar can rise fast. The pancreas responds with insulin because insulin's job is to move that fuel out of the bloodstream. Some goes into muscle and liver glycogen, which is useful, but once those spaces fill, extra energy needs somewhere else to go. And if the meal is large enough, easy enough to overeat, and dense enough, the body can store more than it burned. Think of your fasted body like a dry sponge sitting on the counter. A small, balanced pour gets absorbed beautifully, exactly where it's needed. But dump a bucket on it, and water spills everywhere, runs off the edges, and makes a mess. That's what a chaotic OMAD meal can do to a system that was ready for building materials, not a flood. Maybe you break the fast with a huge bowl of pasta, a creamy coffee drink, nuts by the handful, olive oil poured like confidence, and a small dessert that somehow needs its own plate. None of those foods are magically evil, and some can fit beautifully in the right context. But combined after a day of hunger, they can deliver a full day's energy in less than 30 minutes. Then you're left saying, but I only ate once, while your hormones say, yes, and it was a very loud once. The practical fix is to build the meal before your appetite starts negotiating. Start with protein and fiber first, eggs with vegetables, chicken with a large salad, salmon with broccoli, Greek yogurt with berries, tofu with lentils, or lean beef with roasted vegetables. Then add carbohydrates and fats with intention, based on your activity, not based on how dramatic the day felt. This slows digestion, steadies glucose, lowers the insulin spike, and gives fullness signals time to reach the brain. The deeper insight is that insulin is not the enemy. Uncontrolled timing and overload are the problem. You need insulin to move amino acids into muscle, refill glycogen, and help your body recover. The goal is not to keep insulin flat forever. It's to let it rise for a purpose, do its job, and then fall again. That rhythm is what gives fat cells a chance to open later instead of staying locked in storage mode all night. So the meal after OMAD is not a trophy for suffering. It's the instruction manual your body reads after a long silence. And food choice is still only part of the answer, because fuel needs a destination. What happens next depends on whether your muscles, sleep, and recovery are ready to receive that meal. This is where OMAD stops being a willpower contest and starts becoming a system. Because belly fat doesn't leave just because you suffered through the day. It leaves when the body receives a clear sequence of signals that says, we have energy, we have safety, and we have somewhere useful to send this fuel. That is the difference between fasting as pressure and fasting as a metabolic tool. The mistake is treating OMAD like a lonely trick. You eat once, then hope that one decision overpowers poor sleep, low movement, stress, weak muscle, and a chaotic dinner. But the body doesn't separate these signals into neat little boxes. It blends them together and asks one simple question. Should we spend energy or defend energy? Muscle is one of the biggest answers to that question. When you strength train consistently, your muscles become hungry storage tanks for glucose and amino acids. After your meal, insulin rises and helps move nutrients into muscle tissue, where they can refill glycogen and repair fibers. Then, when insulin falls again, the body can return to stored fuel instead of staying trapped in storage mode. Think of muscle like a busy airport runway. When the runway is open, the fuel from your meal has a safe place to land. But when muscle is inactive, sleep is poor, and stress is high, that runway gets crowded, delayed, and inefficient. Then more incoming energy gets redirected towards storage, and belly fat becomes the overflow parking lot nobody asked for. Imagine two people eating the same OMAD meal. One walked during the fast, lifted weights 3 times that week, slept 7.5 hours, and broke the fast with chicken, vegetables, potatoes, and olive oil. The other sat all day, drank coffee until sunset, slept 5 hours, and broke the fast with takeout, dessert, and a giant drink. Same meal frequency, completely different biological message. The practical sequence is simple enough to remember. Walk during the fast, keep caffeine controlled, protect daily steps, strength train consistently, and break the fast with protein and fiber before adding dense carbs and fats. A good plate might start with eggs, salmon, chicken, Greek yogurt, lean beef, tofu, legumes, leafy greens, berries, beans, or roasted vegetables. Then match starches and fats to your activity level, because a trained muscle handles fuel very differently than a tired body parked in stress mode. The deeper insight is that OMAD works best when insulin has a job and then gets to leave. You don't want insulin rising all day from constant snacking, but you also don't want a stressed body forcing glucose into the blood while you barely move. The goal is rhythm, low insulin during the fast, muscle activity to create demand, a structured meal to support recovery, and sleep to lower the stress burden. When that rhythm repeats, belly has less reason to act like an emergency reserve. Once you see this, the whole story changes. Belly fat loss is no longer about proving you can ignore hunger longer than yesterday. It becomes about sending the body the right signals in the right order, so stored fuel becomes useful instead of protected. And when you understand that sequence, OMAD stops feeling like punishment and starts making biological sense. If OMAD hasn't changed your belly fat the way you expected, it doesn't mean you failed. It means your body may have been reading the wrong message from the routine. You thought the message was, use stored fat, but your biology may have heard, energy is uncertain, stress is high, and we need to defend the reserve. That one difference changes everything. Your body doesn't respond to discipline as much as it responds to signals. Cortisol, insulin, sleep, movement, muscle, hunger, and the structure of your meal all speak to the same internal control panel, and your belly fat listens closely because it's part of the body's emergency system. So the solution is not to punish yourself harder. It's to make the signal clearer. Walk during the fasting window, keep daily movement alive, protect your sleep, avoid turning caffeine into a survival tool, and build your meal before hunger takes the steering wheel. That's how OMAD starts becoming a coordinated rhythm instead of a daily battle. When muscle is active, the meal has somewhere useful to go. When sleep is steady, cortisol doesn't have to scream all night. When protein and fiber come first, insulin can rise with purpose instead of chaos. And when insulin falls again, fat cells finally have a reason to open instead of staying locked. This is the shift most people never make. They keep trying to prove they can eat less when their body is asking for better sequencing. The walk, the calm fast, the structured meal, the strength training, and the sleep reset are not separate tricks. They're all part of the same message. We are safe enough to use stored fuel. So here's the question worth asking yourself. Which signal do you think your body has been receiving every day? Has it been hearing safety, movement, recovery, and nourishment? Or has it been hearing pressure, exhaustion, stillness, and one giant meal at the finish line? And maybe the bigger question is this: have you been fighting your body when what it really needed was a different message? Tell me in the comments which habit you're going to test first: the walk, the meal structure, the sleep reset, or the stress signal. Your answer may reveal the exact place your metabolism has been waiting for help. If this helped you understand your body in a way that finally makes sense, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. The next lessons will keep connecting these hidden biological patterns so you can stop guessing and start reading the signals. Your body is not broken, stubborn, or ignoring you. It's listening every day, and now you know how to change what it hears. If you feel like your body is constantly stuck in alert mode, with poor sleep, fatigue, untimely hunger, and stubborn abdominal fat, I've prepared the complete Cortisol Reset bundle. Inside, you'll receive the main guide, the Cortisol Reset, plus 2 bonuses: low nighttime cortisol protocol and cortisol, insulin, and abdominal fat. The link is in the description.